Hi, this is Paul Benyon. I'm one of the sales engineers here at Hard Dollar Corporation, and today's session we're going to learn about how to be able to bring in material takeoffs that you may have in a file that's come from your design team, and how do you get that into Hard Dollar quickly and efficiently. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and bring up a project, and notice that I don't have any contents in there at this point. All of the contents of this, the scope for the project, along with the quantities, I want to bring those in from a material takeoff file. If I go down to my toolbar here and bring up an Excel spreadsheet, you'll notice that this is the file that came from my design application. And that could be anything, AutoCAD, Intergraph, whatever kind of design system I'm using, maybe even a two-dimensional kind of takeoff. You'll notice that in this particular example, along with the descriptions of the different materials and the quantities associated with them in unit of measure, I also have another code here. Now this code is something that I defined in this template to indicate hierarchy of these more intelligent kinds of breakdowns. So I wanted to have civil be at a higher level and then break down into multiple levels. Now this is mimicking the coding structure that's in Hard Dollar so that it can actually come into Hard Dollar with the hierarchy already set up. The other option is I don't have to specify by this kind of code. I could just bring all the items in at one level and then inside the cost breakdown structure go ahead and establish the hierarchy. But for our example, I simply, to bring in that file, come up to this data source menu, and I have an option to import information into my estimate from Excel. When I do that, I simply browse out to the file, and as we can see, I'm browsed out already to that MTO import file. Then I have, the first time that I set this up, I'm going to go into Define Mapping, and in Define Mapping, I have different categories, and in those categories it's organized the columns in Hard Dollar and lets me then match those columns up to the columns that are in that Excel template so that I set up this mapping, then it knows where to bring that information into in Hard Dollar. So code is matching to code and so forth. Also down below I have what we call a matching identifier. Remember that code that I set up in the Excel spreadsheet that is using and identifying with the CBS position code. Again, I have different options available to me and can do it by my optional code, by user-defined tags, whatever I want to use for my code. Once I've set up that mapping, I save the mapping, and that allows me to not have to come in here every time. So as long as my template doesn't change, as long as the columns stay the same on the Excel side, then not a problem. And when I bring it in, every time I go to import, I can simply hit the import button without having to define the mapping every time. So let's go ahead and import and see what happens. It will prompt me to save the job, which I'll do. And then we should see all that data pop right into the estimate for me, which is exactly what it does. So we now have our scope defined. Because I used the CBS code as the identifier and had that set up, it established 4 different levels of hierarchy, and I have my associated quantities that came in with it. So this wraps up the session showing you how you are able to bring in a material takeoff using our Excel import capability and mapping functionality, and to be able to do it in a matter of seconds. And in addition to that, being able to update this on a regular basis is certainly a functionality built in there as well. So if my file updates, I would simply go up, import again, it would update my quantities for me, and just thus saving a lot of time and effort in putting that together. So that wraps up the session. Again, this is Paul Benyon with Hard Dollar. We'll see you next time.